Somehow, this is the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I have multiple degrees. So obviously you guys know that I record these in my car, but what you probably don't know is how I record them in my car. Let's just do a little flipperoo here. Okay, this is the setup right now. I bought a pack of toilet paper, and as I'm trying to prop my phone on something, I'm like, you know what? We're gonna just make this little toilet paper stand and then just shove the camera right in there. This is what you guys are resting on right now. Okay, back to our programming. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Car Chats with Anjelica. I'm your host, Anjelica, and today I'm coming with another exciting story time. This one from the Anjelica archives. But first, let's take a drink of our refreshing, sparkling beverage. So good. Today we have lemon flavor, one of my faves. So, this story happened when I was finishing about my second year of college, and I was feeling inspired because I had attended, wait for it, sophomore, the year of more. Yes, that is the way that my college chose to brand a sophomore seminar that we were all required to attend, where they encouraged us to do more jobs and internships. It was actually really helpful. I don't know why I'm making fun of it. Anyway, so I had attended that, and it actually really inspired me to want to look for a little bit more official resume building-y type of job, because at that point I was just doing kind of like more basic student jobs. But your girl was ready to get her resume on fleek, okay? And the way that I decided to do that was that my friend had recommended to me the tutoring department on campus. I had personally not used campus tutoring at all, but I did feel that I would be a good tutor. So I started doing a little bit of research, figured out the building that I was going to need to go ask some questions, apply. So I walked into the building, really didn't know where I was going, but was able to identify the correct room to go to because I saw just a flock of little baby sheep students and slightly older students wearing the same t-shirt that said tutor on it. So that kind of indicated to me that I was in the right place. So I walked in there and found the only person who looked like an adult who was wearing a blazer. And for the sake of this story, we're going to name him Dan. So Dan, I walked up and I was like, Dan looks like he's in charge. He just has the look of someone who runs this place. So I walked up to Dan, introduced myself. I'm like, hi, my name's Anjelica. I'm just stopping in because I just have some questions about tutoring. And he kind of stopped in his tracks, turned and looked at me like, so again, I was like, yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. I just wanted to ask about tutoring and, potentially being a tutor. Is that something that you could help me with? Are you the right person? And he again looked at me like. So, side note, I later went on to find out that this person was the tutoring coordinator for the entire department. So I don't think that there should have been such a look of confusion when I mentioned tutoring, seeing as that was his entire job. I had to ask like 3 times. Finally, he was like, yeah, here's an application, fill it out, get it back to me by this date, which I think was like 2 weeks later. I was stoked. I wanted this job so badly, and I don't really know why, but I was just so excited about this job. I just wanted this job so bad. So I filled out the application, got all of my references because you needed multiple references from professors. So I did all of that. It was actually kind of a time-consuming process. Got all of that together, submitted it, was stoked about it. So much to my delight, he called me back shortly thereafter and invited me in for an interview. So I'm like, okay, despite our weird first encounter, obviously he still likes me because he wants me to come in for an interview. I literally just remembered more details of the story that I can't handle. So I come in that day, having prepared, just like, I'm like, I don't know, what do they ask you for a tutoring interview? Is he gonna sit here and grill me on math and economics concepts? I had no idea what that would look like. So just came as prepared as I could be. And the interview started off pretty normally. So midway through the interview, this man, and y'all are gonna have to try real hard to visualize this man took his right leg, contorted it so that his right foot was resting on his right armrest, okay? So let's pretend that my left hand is his armrest. It's here. Somehow he lifted his right leg up like this to the point where in the middle of the interview, his right foot is resting on his right armrest. Okay, and I know what you're trying to think. You're like, oh, so he just like crossed his legs and kind of like rested his right foot on his left armrest. No, right foot on right armrest. Try to fathom that. Try to visualize that. I don't know about you guys, but I am not even physically capable of beginning to do that. Not only would I rip my pants, I would rip my hamstring. I have no clue how this guy did this. So this is problematic not just from an anatomical standpoint, but also from a modesty and appropriateness standpoint. Because as this man does this, as I'm sure you can picture, his legs are basically just like spread in my face, like at eye level during this interview. So I try to make good eye contact in interviews anyway, but it was especially important that I make phenomenal eye contact during this moment. So after Spreadgate 2K15, I was then required to pass a math and economics test right after this interview. So while I feel that I was in no state to do this, my future as a student, as a professional, depended on it. How was I to have sophomore, the year of more, if I couldn't pass this math test? So do you know what I did? I gathered all of my resolve, and I did it. Your girl got the job. Little did I know, at the time of my joyous hiring, that this encounter with this person would not be the last weird encounter that I had with him. I went on to have several other strange encounters. Here's the first one. So I had the misfortune of having to have my wisdom teeth removed the week of training for this job. So I could not attend training with all of the other tutors. I had the honor of having a private training session with this person. So during this private training, we went over the PowerPoint slides that everyone else had to go through during the main training. So at first, super normal. But I noticed that there was a specific phrase that he kept repeating to me that felt very pointed. We went through a slide about the importance of tutors having positive attitudes, and he said to me, as he looked me directly in the eyes, "Don't be a tutor with a tude." Okay, I'm not using the word tude because I just like to use the word tude, although I do love to use the word tude. I'm using that word because that's what he said to me. This like grown, like 30-year-old professional director of a department looked at me and said, "Don't be a tutor with a tude." Okay, he then went on to repeat that phrase an undue number of times throughout the rest of our training. It's almost as if he anticipated me being a tutor with a tude, which I would like to say that I was not. I was a good tutor, despite my sometimes strange work environment. So for the rest of the training, there was also a slide on keeping your relationship with your students totes profesh. Personally, that was not something that I was going to struggle with, and yet we had to go through the slide anyway. During that slide, he seemed to really just hammer that point home to me, as if he was expecting me to just try to like pick up a bunch of little freshman babies that I was tutoring. Like, no, fam, I'm good. Like, I'm really good. But he emphasized that point a little bit too much, to the point that it was strange and creepy. Somehow I made it through that personal training session, but with some very real doubts about what this job might look like for me. And for my last story about this man, which still is so strange to me. During the summer, I would tutor in the library because that's where summer tutoring was held. It was just a nice central location on campus because, of course, tutoring numbers were lower. There's fewer students around, so it was just a nice central location for all the tutors and students to hang out at the time. So part of being a summer tutor was that you had to take tutoring classes because we wouldn't necessarily have students full time. It was more so just walk-ins. So during our off time, we would have to complete certain tutor training sessions online, which basically was just completing college level courses, but for no credit. So this boss would sometimes come down and check up on us occasionally throughout the day. I would say, I don't know, maybe twice a day, because he worked in a different building. So he would come down, check on us throughout the day, just see like what we're up to, how's everything going, which for the most part just seemed pretty friendly. You know, people were happy to see him. It was fine. But one day I was sitting there at my assigned table, working on my trainings, and this guy comes out from behind a bookcase. Bruh, how long have you been there? And he's like, "Hey, Anjelica, how's it going? What are you working on?" Is this what we're doing now? We're just hiding out in the library behind bookcases so that we can spy on student tutors? Like, what is that? honestly, I was pretty creeped out by this because I had no idea that he was even there. Like, I did not see him come into the library. Like, had he been there for a second, a minute, an hour? Was this a Phantom of the Opera situation and he had always been there watching us? I don't know, guys. I don't have answers. I only have questions. Alright, you guys, that is it. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Card Chats with Anjelica. Bye.